On the profile interview segment this week, I'll be speaking with the Director General of the Nigeria Employers Consultative Association, NECA. It brings us up to speed on the urgent need for the federal government and relevant stakeholders to ensure the ease of doing business in Nigeria. He also spoke about several challenges employers of labor are faced with in the country and provide possible solutions towards ensuring there's an enabling environment for businesses to thrive. It's good to have you on the program.
Thank you very much.
A lot has been happening in the world of work, especially as it affects organized private businesses. I think the top discussion I would want to have now is the redesigning of Naira and how it affects organized private sector. Would you want to share with us what has been the feedback from your members as regards this development?
Thank you very much. Thank you for having us. Those are discussed within the bigger context of issue of having 3/4 of the total currency out of the banking sector, and then issue of insecurity and issue of some call it political considerations. Trying to mop up funds from the general populace. But for organized businesses, I think it's more of the real issues of business sustainability. If you redesign the Naira 100 times, will it make the value of the Naira to increase? If you redesign, will it stop the issue of insecurity? If you redesign, will it fundamentally reduce the issue of inflation? So it's less of whether we redesign or not. I think organized businesses are more concerned with the real issue of business sustainability and business competitiveness.
Which takes us to the issue of ease of doing business. How easy has it been to do business in Nigeria? Because if we say, Labour would say workers create wealth, but I mean, the employers of Labour also to cater for a large number of these workers.
Absolutely.
So how has it been easy to actually do business in Nigeria?
I totally agree with you. Workers create wealth, and that wealth is not created it's not created in the air. It's created within the context, and that context is the business context. So if you take away the environment, a hospitable environment where that wealth can be created, then you realize you have been incapacitated from creating the wealth. And in this environment, ease of doing business has become an issue that we've raised severally. For a business to thrive, there are some fundamentals that you need, basically. You need a favorable environment, a stable fiscal and monetary policy environment also. And also a regulatory environment that is encouraging, that promotes business growth, or that doesn't stifle it. Well, predominantly what we have currently, unfortunately, there are contradictions that makes doing business very, very difficult. We've spoken about legislative incursion to businesses. Of recent, the various committees of National Assembly inviting businesses to Abuja. The MD must come compulsorily, purportedly based on Section 88 and 9 of the Constitution. And we feel that, look, most of those issues has been handled by the time-tested principle of separation of power. The National Assembly make laws. You cannot make the law and then also supervise the implementation of the law. And our strong view is that, look, there are agencies of the executives, agencies of government in the executive realm that the concern have created to deal with certain issues. We talk of issue of expatriate quota. It's within the purview of Ministry of Interior. So if the National Assembly or its committee are not satisfied with how it is handled, you could just summon the Minister of Interior to ask questions, because those businesses are responsible, or they are being supervised, or they are being regulated by the Ministry of Interior. Same for tax. If you have issues with tax, if you have issues with custom, you don't keep inviting organized businesses to Abuja. It's distractive and also creates some level of uncertainty for foreign investors. If the environment is not stable, then why will I bring my capital to Nigeria? So those are the big concerns that we have. Also, the issue of monetary and fiscal policies. Fortunately, the Vice President, about 3 weeks ago in a forum, also aligned with that context, that there has been a lot of as the popular professor in Benin will say, a lot of igiaga within the context of the fiscal monetary policy, which also it makes planning very difficult for an investor. It makes the environment quite unstable, and always changes the dynamics between business sustainability and then business unsustainability in this context. So we've appealed to government. We've also written to the National Assembly. We have, there's a case also in court that let the court decide. And also one of the rules of the House is when a matter is in court, you don't go about pursuing it. And we have written to the committee chairman also, to let them know, look, we are a responsible organization. Our members also are very responsible, that they should allow the court to adjudicate on the matter then before we progress.
So, so far, what has been organized private sector engagement towards ensuring that there is an understanding of the role that the organized private sector play towards national development?
I think we have the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment that has been very responsive. Kudos to the minister. We have the Minister of Finance that we've reached out to severally. We wouldn't know our constraint or our limitations. We have written to the President, to the Vice President, and also those mass of critical stakeholders. The fundamental issue is this, until you understand the nexus between a policy and the consequences. Let me give you an instance. If I don't have forex to produce, that means I will have to go to the black market to buy. Going to the black market to buy presupposes that I'm paying twice the official price for it. Then I will produce, and once I produce, naturally the price will increase. Now, because of the value of the dollar, also, and the inflation rates of double digits, the purchasing power of the citizens has been eroded. Now, I produce with a margin, a higher margin. Now, the people cannot buy. My stock continues to increase. And a desperate businessman, once the stock is getting to expiry date, will most likely change the expiry date. It changes the expiry date, repackage the product, put the product back in the market, probably with a reduced price. Citizens buy the goods, they eat, they start having health issues. Now, you start dealing with health issues again. Now, except you do a thorough analysis, you would not connect the issue of forex or the issue of the challenges that the business faces. You hardly will connect it to the issue of health that you're not having. So until we sit down as a people and we come up with novel way of policy formulation, policy implementation, and monitoring, I think we'll just be going on a rigmarole. So the view for us is this. Let's look at a policy trust from the beginning, and look at all the consequences, likely consequences that it can have on our national life. Except we do that, we'll just be coming up with so many contradictions, that is not serving anybody.
So, as a key pointer now, this administration, the current administration that Nigeria is actually running, is about running to an end, and of course there will be this panic in the business sector on what certainties or uncertainties that we should be expecting. So what would be your advice, or what do you think organized private sector should be doing at the moment? What do you think the federal government is supposed to be doing at this moment to ensure that there's a smooth transition? So at the end of the day, the already weak economy is not further weakened, but rather strengthened.
I think one of the things government can do or should step up doing is the issue of the oil theft. I think they've started well. We've achieved some level of results. I think that should be stepped up. If we have a OPEC quota that is also not sufficient enough for us to get the kind of the quantum of dollar we need to mitigate the challenges that we have. And we are also, through oil theft, we are not meeting that quota. It's double jeopardy. So the first thing is to deal with those issues of oil theft as we are doing frontally, muster the political will, if that will be a legacy that the government will leave of dealing with the issue of oil theft once and for all. That will be fundamental because that will also show up the quantum of dollars that you have and probably reduce the pressure on the naira. Also, the issue of subsidy is something they can do within 6-7 months. We have refineries that has been turned around, but they are not turning anywhere. So one of the things they can do also is to frontally face the issue of subsidy. No country pays $6 trillion or naira to subsidize consumption. It is absolutely unheard of. It's less of government calling the ministers to or doing an evaluation of how the ministries have performed. I think a key parameter should be how many businesses have you promoted? How many businesses are the agencies under your watch? How many businesses have they facilitated? For now, it's all about what's the income, how much income that you have generated, which is contrary to some of the foundation or the reasons why most agencies are set out. Yeah.
Brilliant. So moving forward, year 2022, what I know your response is similar to what might be the year in projection for 2023. Well, how would you say the organized private sector fared in the year 2022, and what are the projections for 2023, especially as it is an electioneering year for us here in Nigeria?
We must commend the resilience and doggedness of Nigerian businesses. That government should not overburden businesses. There are conversations about increasing the excise duty on some products. We have also made representation to government. If you increase excise, you're only making illicit trade attractive within the context of Nigerian borders. If countries like Benin, neighboring countries are all reducing excise so that they make their country a bit attractive for investment, then why are we increasing excise? It just makes the environment attractive for illicit trade. It also makes those businesses a bit unsustainable, and they find ways to remain sustainable. We might also include retrenching, downsizing, reduce their capacity. So those engagements are going on, and we've made representation to the president, to the vice president, to the relevant ministries, and also especially to the Minister of Finance, that increasing excise at this point without being faithful to the roadmap that was earlier set this year will not be fair on the business community.
Okay, unemployment is really, really a challenge in Nigeria, even as much as the government and even organized private sector is in support of small-scale businesses being new ones springing up and all. What more do you think needs to be done to ensure that more jobs are provided?
It's sometimes when we couch, or when people in government couch some of these things in big grammars, then you start wondering what exactly is the problem. Most of these things are not rocket science, as we have said. How do you generate jobs? It's a basic question. When government said, okay, some ministries have said they're going to generate 1 million jobs, 2 million jobs, 10 million jobs before 2025. Come on, 2025 is 3 years. The question we're not asking is how. And for me, the how is simple. Now, every 10 jobs created globally, it is generally accepted that the private sector creates 8. So, simple logic. If I want more jobs, I provide an environment that is favorable to those that have the capacity to create jobs. If you stifle them with increased taxes, stifle them with an inhospitable regulatory environment, the legislature are also stifling such businesses. Look, we are not creating an environment for them to create jobs. You can't be saying something with one side of our mouth, and at the same time, we are saying something else with the other side of our mouth. So those contradictions we need to deal with, and we need to deal with them decisively. We want more jobs, facilitate the business environment for businesses to expand. The more they expand, the more you get more people to get employed. And also, very importantly, is if I'm a business owner and I have $10 million or $1 billion to invest in an African country, I probably will not go to the ministry or the foreign affairs to ask about, look, I have $1 billion I want to invest. Can I bring it to your country? I'll most likely call a colleague or two that are already investing in your country and say, look, I have these funds. Can I invest in Nigeria? Can you share your experience, your perspective about investing in Nigeria? What are the opportunities? Now, the testimonial of such businesses will inform whether I come or not. If I've been harassed severally by a House committee or the National Assembly, most likely I will tell my friends that, look, this environment, if you don't have the heart, don't come. And progressively you start losing the opportunity for foreign direct investment. So let's government deliberately, the National Assembly, the executive, the judiciary, let's join hands with the organized businesses and create a path towards resolving all this issue of job creation. It's going to get worse if we are not careful. It's not sounding the alarm. AFCFTA implementation will be progressively is being enlarged, notwithstanding the protocols. And from good authority, countries from Europe, from other African countries, they're already moving to Africa en masse, building factories around them, around our neighbors, and they will produce. They bring those goods here. We'll have exported our jobs and create a different dynamics within the context of unemployment in this place. So, as I said earlier, we can't just blank our eyes to the consequences of those policies. And if we want to deal with those issues, we must deal with them frontally. We can't continue to complain about the effect while we are feeding the cause.
Thank you very much for your time. It was an interesting conversation I had with you.
Thank you very much for having us.
And that's all we can take on today's edition of the program. Join us next week for a fresh edition of the show. I am Sharon Ijason. Thanks for watching, and remember that labor creates wealth.